All right, so in this video, I'm going to be going over slide playing. Now, there's a lot of different slide players that came out of the blues era way back. This is actually started a long, long time ago, like Robert Johnson and all that kind of stuff. When you're going back to 1920s and 30s, a lot of that was done acoustically. There's no electric guitars. One thing you want to make sure with playing slide is you're either using electric with metal strings or you're using acoustic with metal strings. Does not work on nylon string guitars. In this first lesson, we're going to go over the basics of slide playing. Sometimes people like to use a heavier gauge string. There's also dobro guitars that are used, which have like a resonator in them. It gives you like that really good metallic sound. One other thing is we're going to be working with standard tuning. We're going to go over the basics. We're going to go over some chords, how to do chords. We're going to go over different types of slides, things like that. Now, what's going on with the guitar itself? It doesn't matter which electric guitar you use, but there are some that are better than others at doing slide. You'll notice quite often there's a lot of players that use a Les Paul instead of a Strat or maybe a Telecaster when they're doing slide. Now, the reason for that is those instruments seem, for some reason, have really good sustain. And especially when you have an amplifier and they're plugged in, those guys who use Les Pauls like Dwayne Allman or Derek Trucks or Dickie Betts, those kind of players, they use slides pretty much for the classic rock they were playing, and they're all like really blues players. So what I would advise before starting on any of this, or starting with it, coinciding with it, is to start learning your pentatonic scales. Learn your blues scales. The pentatonics, I'm going to show you that first. Obviously, this is a video on slide playing, so we're going to base a lot of our stuff we're doing on slide playing. Now, another thing is a lot of players love when they're playing slide to have high action on their strings. It allows a easier surface to slide across with. Now, I'm not going to do that on this guitar. I'm going to just do it on standard, the standard height of string. But what we'll do, if you feel like you want to take one guitar that you use and you want to, heighten the strings and have them higher up, that's one benefit. And when it comes to slide playing, you'll get like an easier surface to glide. You won't hit the frets as much to get that metal hitting against metal. And that's just something, if you feel like doing that, you'd have to adjust the truss rod. So you would have to adjust the truss rod, which is up here on a Strat. If you have a Les Paul, it's up there as well. And you would have to make the action higher. Or you can adjust the bridge to make the action higher. These are like steps to take if you want that high slide thing going on. It's all about that being able to slide across with not as much resistance. And and if you want to use a Les Paul guitar or a Strat, it's up to you really. Like I mentioned, a Strat has less sustain, or a Telecaster. A Les Paul has the most sustain, and that's why you see a lot of players using it. Now, there's all different types of slides. I'm going to be using this copper slide, and what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be putting on my pinky. I play slide mostly on my pinky. Why do I do that? Because I have these fingers available to do other things. Kind of thing, right? And then I can go. That kind of stuff. Now, there's all different types of slides. There's metal slides. There's ones that are they're a lot larger in diameter in terms of your fingers. The ones that are larger are going to fit. Like I'm not going to, I can use this here on this finger too. I can use it on my pinky. It goes all the way down. You want to have something that fits your fingers. You got to test them out right at the store and all that stuff. The thing is, there's the bottleneck. People use bottlenecks before. There's the regular glass ones. There's the copper. There's silver ones. Now, some general rules in terms of slides. Heavier slides sound louder. They just sound louder if you have a heavier slide. And so if you have a lighter slide, it's not going to sound as much. There's different thicknesses. There's even lengths, different lengths. There's ones that are even shorter, like this, that people use a little slide while they play everything else with their fingers. I've seen a lot of that. Glass slide is harder than metal. It slides better overall than metal over the strings, and it gives a sharper tone when you're using a glass slide. So you can choose between a glass slide or a metal slide. Metal slides will produce a warmer tone. So, glass is, sharper. A metal slide is going to be warmer. The higher the strings, the easier to play the bass strings and play the sliding across. If you want to, like I mentioned before, you can heighten the strings. Now the fingers that we use, quite often when we use their fingers, we are either using the middle finger, this finger here. Well, this one doesn't particularly slide over this. I didn't buy this slide for the middle finger. You can use the middle finger or the ring finger. You can use this one, a ring finger, that would work, kind of thing. Or I use the pinky. Now the middle finger is the biggest finger that most people use the slide for. You can hold a bigger slide. You'd have to get a thicker slide, something that would fit more over your fingers usually. And it gives a fatter sound and it's like called a power slide kind of thing. I'd say what's one song that they did that with. It's probably like something like Freebird. And they would do that beginning part. He's going for that. However, if you lift up this finger, you can't really play like in between notes with the other fingers so much. It just becomes a nuisance. It's like, you go kind of thing, which, it's fine, but it's, it doesn't feel as good as if you're putting on the other fingers. You'd have an easier time playing with these two. Now the ring finger is how Dwayne Allman played. So if you like the Allman Brothers and how he played, Derek Trucks does this as well. He's playing with this finger here. The slide is big enough to get a good sound, and you have the two fingers, these two fingers for muting the strings. But then but playing the normal way is hard. So if you were to try to play like going like this and try to this is going to be hard. So a lot of times they would those guys would just use a lot of slide in their playing, and they wouldn't use a lot of the other fingers. So this is another hard way of trying to use these two fingers or this finger as you slide. The pinky method is a choice if you want to combine both a slide and normal playing. I could just jam my finger in there. Don't want to do that. All right, so too much. All right, so when you have the pinky method here, when you're doing this, right, you have the ability to have the three fingers here to mute the strings or play without the slide. Like that, and I'm going. As you see, I can play with my fingers and I can slide across. I can also mute really well. And this is made for smaller slides because your pinky's smaller, right? Makes sense. Now Johnny Winter, Eric Clapton play and was it Muddy Waters quite often played with a slide on their pinky, and then they were able to play in between notes like this. Now with slides, there's a lot of different tunings. One thing with the different tunings with slides is there's standard tuning, obviously, which is E standard. You know, Eric Clapton, Dwayne Allman used to use a lot of E standard opening tunings like that. You also have open G, you have open E, and then you have open D, which are very popular type of keys to you know, make the guitar in. Now I'm gonna just be doing E standard for now. You know, we're gonna focus on that. That's a beginner's thing. So in the beginning, you want to focus on E standard. Now, so in E standard, you know, all the strings are gonna be tuned with your tuner. Like you can use guitar tuner in order to tune it back into standard. Now we're going to be going over some chords. This is my first lesson for you, and the first lesson is to go over the different chords. And we're going to be sliding across and doing some chords as you do this, right? So I'm going to use my pinky, and obviously we're going to start with our minor chords. Now, quite often we're going to be doing the slide over the fret. So as we do this, we're going to be sliding this, and if I'm on the let's just say the first fret here, that's going to be a minor chord. And what minor chord is it? It's going to be your F minor, because this is your root, right? So we slide across. We're gonna just choose the first three strings to work with. So, you know, at first it's kind of hard up here a little bit because it's like, you know, not in a cool area. That's your minor chord. Now if you go down to this fret here, now you have the G minor. Now if I move down to here, this one, so I'm gonna make the sound a little bit just to show you how to slide. You can slide from minor chord to minor chord. G minor to A minor, which is going to be here. That's your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fret, right? A minor. And then we're going to slide this all the way over to your next chord, which is going to be C minor. And what we're going to do is we're going to go all the way down here. So we're going to slide and do our minor chord. That's a C minor. Now I'm going to slide this down to D minor next. And what fret am I on here? Well, I'm on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th fret. That's your C minor. And I'm going to slide to D minor next. My D minor chord is going to go down here. So we're going to go. And then I'm going to slide to the 12th fret here to my E minor. So that's my E minor chord. Now let's do that again. We're going to show you. I want you to start practicing sliding, getting that nice slide across, having that evenness. When you slide the slide, it's got to be nice and even across the strings, and you're not pressing down like, you know, like crazy. Okay? So you're just like gliding it across this. You have F minor, and then G minor, A minor, and then we're going to go down to C minor, and then we're going to go down, C minor, sorry, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, right? So then we're going to, and then, down here, I was right. And then we're going to go down again. D minor, I was right there, it was gonna be there, C minor and D minor. And then finally we have our E minor down here. You can go back down, and then down to F minor. So, just getting used to this and the different chords. I'm going to send this chord chart to you. It's a minor chord chart. Now we're going to get to the major chords. So I want you to start doing this technique as a start for slides, and then I'm going to add more to this, lesson. So as we do this, now we're going to do all major chords. Now, if we go to the major chord, the first one we have down here, we're going to go one fret down to A. This is going to be A chord, right? You notice the difference? It sounds more major. The other ones sound minor because we're not using those 3 strings down here. Now what we're using is we're using the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th string like this. So I have A, and then I'm going to go to C, which is going to be down here. And I'm going to go to D next. And then I'm going to go down to E. And then F. And then finally G at the 12th fret. So once again, A. And then C. And then D, you want to practice this, and then E, and then the G. A lot of people use these major chords. Sometimes they won't even use that string in the 2nd string. They'll just use the first. They'll use the 3rd and the 4th. Now, if you kick it down here, that's more minor. That's major, right? So the first 3 strings are going to give you that minor chord sound. The 2nd, 3rd, and 4th strings are going to give you more of the major sound. Okay? Now, this is going to be your starting, lesson to work on this. I would try, I would definitely, what we're going to do is we're going to have you work on that. Just getting used to the slide. I'm doing the pinky slide. I think it's a good way to start. And just going across and doing those chords. I'm going to send you those chords just as your first lesson on slides. This is like, 18, 20 minute, lesson here on video. Now, the thing is, we're going to get into the more of the blues stuff as we go along. Not only that, we're going to get into licks and tricks and things and on slides. And at some point, we can get into maybe getting into a song, obviously. Get into a song at some point. But first, you got to really work on this. And then work on your chords and start memorizing those chord shapes. Because that's going to give you the keys a lot of the things we're going to be playing. So if I have E minor, F minor, G minor, A minor, C minor, D minor, E minor, and then I have A major, C major, D major, E major, F major, and G major that I demonstrated across this. And then we'll take this to the next level. But that's the intro and the beginning of slide playing.